with up whatever happened.
Yep, I don't know what happened. So, all right, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Due to the governor's statewide disaster declaration relating to the COVID-19 pandemic and current public health guidelines for social distancing, I've determined that it's not prudent for the members of the village board or staff to convene in person for tonight's meeting. Therefore, the members of the village board are attending this meeting by video conference. Those same conditions require barring access to the public for in-person attendance. In light of those limitations, the public's invited to attend and listen to the meeting via the Zoom platform or by phone as indicated in the meeting agenda. To comply with the Open Meetings Act requirements for virtual meetings, tonight's meeting is being recorded. If I could ask Village Clerk Gayton to take attendance and ask if everyone can be heard.
Trustee Brasky, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. No Trustee Kritzmeyer yet. And Trustee O'Reilly, we can finally hear you, right?
Yes.
Excellent. And let's see, Trustee Nora, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Excellent. And Trustee O'Connor, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Sure can. And Trustee Micho, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, thank you.
Great, thanks.
All right, let's say the Pledge of Allegiance if we can. I pledge of allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands one nation
One nation,
under
under God,
God, indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. The first item on the agenda are the Homeowners Association visitors. From Creekside, we have Trustee O'Reilly representing them. Bobby, do you have anything for us?
Just that we don't get sound in North Long Grove anymore. It always seems to be an issue. Kidding, of course. No, we have no issues.
Oh, geez. Well, we're glad you made it. So perfect. Thank you. From Eleanor Estates, it's Sandria, right?
Area.
Sandaria Morgan. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Do you have anything for us?
I just wanted to just mention that, for quite some time now, Lake Eleanor Estates has been having drainage issues, and that has certainly impacted several of our homeowners. We've had a meeting with Jeff several months back, and we plan to restart our conversations with him in the next week or so. But what we'd like to do is work together and determine if we can apply with hopes to receive some sort of grants to help us resolve our water issues. And I think you guys may be aware of the drainage issues that we've had in the past.
No, we are aware of it. I know that we've been reaching out to you directly to try to work with you to make sure they're addressed. And I don't know if Engineer Jeff Perry can give us kind of an update too on where that's at. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I've been reaching out to Sedaria and Richard, and I learned earlier today as well that Richard Eterno had moved out of the subdivision and Sedaria is now the president. So Sedaria and I exchanged some emails after I gave her the information for tonight's meeting, but the first step that we have is to get the documentation of the work Lake Eleanor Estates had done 15 years ago on their outlet pipe. And I think that after that, we can determine what needs to be done, responsibility and things like that. Sedaria mentioned a grant, and the one that immediately comes to my mind is the county's watershed management board grants. The call for projects of that will be later this year. So that's one possibility depending on the scope that's determined. The county also offers a stormwater infrastructure repair fund that has a rolling call for projects. So depending on timing, scope, that also may be a viable option. Both of those grant programs, Sedaria, are 50-50 cost match programs with a grant cap of $50,000. So I think we need to get some information on what you did and, you know, what it's going to look like going forward and go from there.
Okay, perfect. I mean, I'm very new to being the president, and so we'll absolutely try to get you everything you need so that we can get the ball rolling on this.
Yeah, no, thanks for taking that leadership role. It's not always the most pleasant job, but we need people to do what you're doing. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Let's see. Prairie Trails. Is Mark Pacini here? Or Pacini?
No, Mark isn't. This is Steve Appel.
Oh, hey, Steve. Thanks for being here.
No problem.
Do you have anything for us?
No, I just wanted to hear, you had a budget item on the North Kruger Road for tonight?
Are we specifically talking about North Kruger tonight, Jeff?
Under roads.
Oh, under roads as far as using the MFT funds for the North Kruger project? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I was just curious if there is anything going on with that North Kruger specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's happening this year, right? So we're in the process, and Jeff, maybe it's a good time to give a brief update on North Kruger, where we're at, right?
Okay, so North Kruger Road is scheduled to receive bids next Friday, March 5th. So we have, or I should say the state has 8 contractors lined up to bid on that project, which is great. So the bids will be opened at 10 o'clock next Friday. Soon thereafter, the village will get an email about the low bidder. And as this is a project that's state funded or federally funded, excuse me, the execution of the contract takes a little bit longer. It's a contract that's going to be between the state and the contractor. So we're anticipating the construction of the project will start around Memorial Day, probably just a little bit after that. So that's the bidding. So we should know a lot more after next Friday's bid opening, but we're excited for that. And in preparation for North Kruger Road, we will have a resident open house / pre-construction meeting with the residents. Talked with Trustee O'Connor earlier today, and I understand that Manager Balling spoke with Trustee O'Reilly about the meeting. We're targeting an early May meeting date. That'll give us the best information available, which is a contractor under contract, hopefully by then or near, and a construction schedule that can be shared.
And to answer a previously asked question regarding the fate of the daffodils along Kruger, I checked with my arboretum botanist friend this afternoon, and she said that the best thing to do to save them, if saving is possible, is to, once they're dug up at that time of year, that should be kind of okayed because they're going to get dug up anyway. She said to put them back in the ground as soon as possible thereafter, and they should be fine.
And Bill and I talked today about the daffodils because the daffodils are such a symbol in Long Grove that we would make preparations somewhere around the village hall to have it prepared so that we can immediately get the bulbs back in the ground.
Right. We'd have to retrieve them first, and then once it's reasonable, put them back in. But to keep them.
And we'll need a sensitive contractor.
I'm sure they will be the epitome of sensitivity.
So guys, that's great news. Last I heard, I didn't know if all the money was there, but obviously it is. So you're going out for bids. It was a Memorial Day start. Is that what you think, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay.
So as more information becomes known, I'll be sure to continue to share that with the board, and it'll be distributed in newsletters, I'm sure.
Okay. And lastly, when would you have the meeting for residents?
We're thinking early May.
Early May. Okay.
Early to mid, we said.
Early to mid. Okay.
depending on, the contractor and the state and so on and so forth. Whatever.
Okay, great.
Correct.
And then Jeff, later, I mean, we can connect, but the drainage issues for us, you got that all mapped out, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right. Guys, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Steve. Appreciate it. Okay, moving right along. We have 2 special event apps for 2 different marathons, the Prairie State Marathon or half marathon, and then the annual turkey trot. Peter, I appreciate you joining. I see you there, Peter Starkowitz. We had it on the agenda for the last meeting, and we decided to push it. There were some questions from the board. So I don't know if you can unmute, and can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. That's fantastic.
Beautiful.
Okay, great.
That's always a good start.
But the Prairie State's on October 2nd, and the turkey trot's on November 25th, which is Thanksgiving, as always. I think there were questions about where the donations, how much was getting donated and things like that. And there might be some other questions too that the board had regarding both. So I don't know if you want to respond to that initial question and any just highlights you want to share with us too.
Yeah, if there's any questions about the donations specifically, if those questions can just ask them, maybe I can just answer them all in one pile. If there's anything in specific.
I think, was it, who asked about what percentage of the proceeds is going to who and where and that kind of thing?
I think the question was, from whom do the contributions come? Because I was told that that once the race is finished, that the participants are asked to contribute into the kitty for the charitable donation. And I'm wondering if all of the donation comes from the participants, and if not, how much comes from the vendor. Excuse me.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent question. So the lion's share of the donations are coming directly from all community events. And so we do not require anybody to donate. It's not a necessity for anyone to donate. We offer the opportunity for those who wish to donate more to have that opportunity, because obviously it's a benefit to the partner charities. But yeah, the lion's share of the donations, I would say 75–80% of donations, I would say probably closer to 80, maybe more, are coming from directly from us. Yeah.
Do you know what the total is on that, Peter?
Yeah, it's about depending on the year, but about 20,000, plus or minus dollars is the donation amount that we're doing each year. So yeah.
That gets split to how many charities, do you think?
Okay, right. Yeah. So the lion's share of that is going to either the historic Long Grove downtown to kind of like support their carriage rides and stuff like that, and kind of they're decorating and all that for the holidays. And then there's Northern Illinois Food Bank, as well as Wings charity, that are the two are the three really big ones. And then there's a lot of support groups. I wouldn't say a lot, but there's a handful of support groups that come out and help at the event, and in return, we donate to them as well.
So can you break down the top three percentage-wise?
Yeah, I would say that the that they changed. It's the historic downtown business community. They're probably receiving 45%. I would say. I would say that Northern Illinois Food Bank is probably, I would say, about 30%, and of that, and Wings is probably I would say somewhere between 12-15% of that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board regarding the events?
This is Bobby. Peter, there was some lack of communication last fall on I think everybody's part, and we jumped through hoops more than a couple of times, and so I hope everybody will be a little more on their toes this year than they were last year.
We've
okay.
had and there was a resident from Bridgewater Farms who says that for them, they have had enough. They're tiring of the inability to get in and out of their community. Bridgewater Farms, you may or may not know, Peter, is the first subdivision on your left if you're going south on Schaefer from Old 53.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're closed the longest because they're the closest to the start line. And
do we know?
Go ahead.
Typically if there's any issues that come up, I'm notified of them directly and usually communicate directly with I guess there's usually a three-way communication between me, the person who might have had an issue, as well as a representative.
Peter, when I said communication, I was not talking about residents. I was talking about getting your information into our newsletters and all of the changes, which were for good reason, but the communication just wasn't as good as it usually is with us getting out the right information.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you communicating that to me, and happy to do everything that we can to make that better.
Well,
and
if
I'm not making any excuses or anything, but last year was just. Sorry. Go ahead.
If you'll recall, you weren't even in line for permits.
Yeah,
because
I don't really want to. I don't really want to point any fingers or anything like that. But I don't really believe that was an issue on our end. I think that actually had to do something with the historic.
Yes, I agree. But you're usually quite good at planning, and it wasn't so good this time. And that's my only point. If you were a lousy communicator, I'd let it slide because we'd be used to it. But I'm not. You're not. You're a good communicator, and so I want to make sure we go back to the good.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback, and you want great communication. We will make sure that we're on top of that, and we're doing that. I think that actually something that we're doing is that when applications are submitted, is instead of just sending them directly to, maybe instead of just sending them directly to the historic business district, we're also CCing in the usually we CC in Dave, but obviously he's not here, and so just CCing someone in from the village, so that way. There's just everyone seeing that the process is going on. So
that's a good improvement.
Yeah.
Okay, so regarding the resident in Bridgewater Farms, as the runners exit certain areas, are the subdivisions then opened up, Peter, or is it everybody opens up at the same time on a different timetable?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm actually a little bit. I'm surprised to hear that there was an issue with anybody on anything last year, and the reason that I say that is, and knowing specifics of what that is always helps, because then we can really address, the issue or whatever. But last year, the only event that we did was the Prairie State event.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the nature of the Prairie State event is one in which everything is much more spread out, and the ability to access the roads, throughout the entire event, where like with the turkey trot, there is a short period of time where the roads are full of runners. But with Prairie State, it's a lot more spread out. So there should be really no time at which there's ever an issue with someone trying to get out or move to where they need to be. And so, if any issues that typically occur in the past with the Prairie State event has been usually like towards the beginning, when maybe like an officer was directing people, by accident the wrong way or something like that. And then we, quickly will adjust or, say, hey, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And we'll adjust that issue or something like that. But without getting too lengthy, I would say that if I had a specifics on it, I would, usually anything that's brought up like that, we try to address it directly, because then if there is an issue, we'll make adjustments each year to make sure that, those sorts of things are mitigated, in the future, because I mean, obviously we got to keep everybody happy. Otherwise, long walk, short pier type of thing for me.
Well, and I know that the Prairie State was the socially distanced one. So I understand what you're saying, and I'll relay the info. Thank you.
Yeah, and the one thing I would just say to anybody is, if they hear ever an issue at the event, if they can get specifics about it, what time, where exactly it was, like, we will communicate directly with the people who were in that area.
Okay.
And figure out what the deal is, because we have plans in place and meetings with everybody, making sure that everyone's on the same page. And if there was something that someone wasn't doing properly, it helps to know that, so that way, we can make sure those things don't happen.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Multiple people missed your memo last year. I'm in Country Club Estates, Peter. My wife and daughter couldn't get in or out throughout the entire run. And we've got multiple ways to get in and out of the subdivision. They got turned back at every spot. So I don't know what to tell you, but the ball was dropped really badly last year. Hopefully it won't take place again this year.
Yeah. Well, I hope not either, because I'm not saying that anybody's saying something that's not true. I'm just saying that is just that doesn't, I guess what I'd say is it doesn't make sense with everything that's going on out there. But I would just say that, in the neighborhood notification that we do send out, it has my personal cell phone number on it. So that way, if someone wants to connect with me directly during the event and say, hey, I am, and this goes out to every resident, I am here and I am trying to get in and I cannot, and this is a problem, that I will personally stop whatever I'm doing and go make and communicate with that person, or get to that area, or get someone who is of high up level in terms of the management, to make sure that issue gets resolved. Because I mean, that's not supposed to happen. And the roads are closed down, or not closed down, the roads are in use for a period of time, and we see residents moving. And so we would assume that if there was really a big problem in a certain area, that we would be getting numerous communications about that. So yeah, I mean, please, when we send out those letters, make sure that you feel free to reach out to me during the event if there is something that's not going per the plan that we send out, and try to communicate clearly, because we'll be very on top of making sure that gets resolved.
Okay. It may have just been one off, because that hadn't happened before.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not, while it's always difficult for, I think, anybody to receive negative feedback about anything, I am very on top of making sure that whatever it is, gets handled during the event, or if it's something that I didn't know about till after, gets, fixed. We take notes on this stuff every single year. And so the next year, it's not like we forget about it. We have those notes in place, and then we try to make sure that we make adjustments each year, and we do make adjustments each year. And like, for example, coming into this year, based on resident feedback, we're not going to have any portable toilets inside any of the neighborhoods. We're going to have those outside the neighborhoods because residents didn't like that. So that was communication we got. We're making a plan to adjust for that. And so, that's a real action taking place based on feedback that we've gotten. So, anything that we hear, we try to adjust. We try to hear loud and clear and adjust accordingly.
Okay.
Can I give you some positive feedback?
I never have a problem hearing that.
I'm not sure what all the trustees think about the donation. I was actually surprised that the number is as large as it is. So so thanks for that. We appreciate you reinvesting that in the community and certainly in the charities. Just a couple of thoughts for the other trustees and just a philosophical hat. Even though the downtown business owners are inconvenienced, so are folks who live outside of downtown. So, is it best suited to take that majority of the donation and give it to the downtown business group, or should we find a more equitable way to have some of that money used throughout the village at some of the other areas? I mean, Christmas decorations up north would be nice too, as an example. So just kind of food. I saw Jenny react to that a little bit. I mean, it's just kind of a philosophical question, and then along the same lines, that last pass the hat. I'm a little bit kind of surprised that any of the last pass the hat donation money would be going to the downtown business group as well. I would have thought that'd be more specifically earmarked for a specific charity. I just kind of throwing it out there as, to me, it'd make more sense to pass a hat for a very specific charity as opposed to, putting it back into the downtown, which again doesn't serve all of Long Grove in the direct sense. Anyway, just random thoughts. I don't know what anybody else thinks about that, but
Peter?
I'm sorry, Bobby, go ahead.
Peter, Chris brings up North Long Grove. We have no events ever in North Long Grove. Would you look at a map sometime and see if you could have a run in the north end of Long Grove?
I mean, yeah, we can definitely look into that. We definitely, we can definitely look into that. We definitely see if there's a possibility. There are a lot of, when you say North Long Grove, I'm thinking like
north of 22.
Right. So like Prairie Trails, Cobblestone, near this what's the
Diamond Lake
neighbor?
Road, Stockbridge.
Right.
Indian Creek.
Yeah,
and with
there's
the schools there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of trails, you know what I mean, that are foot trails and that sort of thing that, we could definitely be doing something on. There's various places in which we could try and get parking figured out. Obviously, parking is always a, one that's important. So if there's a want for that sort of thing, then we can try and see where maybe we can find a demand in the running industry to create something that people would really enjoy coming out to.
Yeah, just if you take a look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And if you'd like, I could follow up maybe with you afterwards or something like that to hear a little bit more of your thoughts.
Okay, great.
Are there any other reactions to Chris's comments? Or if not, does somebody want to make a motion to approve both events?
I would make a motion to approve the special event permit applications for the half marathon 2021 and the turkey trot 2021.
Okay, moved by Trustee O'Reilly, seconded by Trustee Nora, and that's a roll call.
Trustee Borowski,
yes.
Trustee O'Reilly,
Yes.
Trustee Nora,
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor.
Before I vote, I did have a response to a question Chris asked before the motion was called. I do agree with you, Chris. I know that the merchants benefit, and I know that certainly a lot of our residents love the races because they participate in them, for which I'm very happy. I do wish, though, that somehow the residents who are inconvenienced they can't be monetarily, put at ease necessarily, but I would like to see something where somehow there could be more equanimity, period. My vote is aye.
I don't know what that
Yeah,
word was,
trustee
Rita. I'm
Musil.
gonna go have to look that word up.
Which one?
Equanimity? Yeah.
I'll spell it for you.
No, that's okay. I'll Google it.
Trustee Musil.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion carried.
Five
And trustee Kritzmeyer just joined us as well. Probably not fair to ask her to vote on this unless she wants to.
No, whatever it is, no, not yet.
All right, thanks for joining us. If you could note that she's here. All right.
I will do so. Thank you.
Thank you. So
Thanks, Amy.
motion approved, Peter. So thank you.
All right, thank you guys very much for your time and effort, and we enjoy working with you guys, and we will enjoy a lot more being out at events this year. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Peter.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
You too, guys. Thank you.
All right, we have another special event app, and I see somebody's named JD's iPhone. So I'm guessing that's Jesse DeSoto. So let me just set this up real briefly. So Jesse is planning some events at his dance studio, mostly on Saturdays throughout really starting from April, going all the way into November. Where he wants to have them is in what he calls Brothers Field. It's that field across from the Chatterbox where he tore down the red barn building there, right? The furniture store, old furniture store right next to his dance studio. He's not sure exactly the format of all of these. He's going to experiment a little bit, but he wanted to get the dates on the calendar and get approval. I spoke to him yesterday to ask him to join us just to share and answer some questions you might have. We were trying to figure out the best process here because we don't know precisely. He doesn't know precisely what he wants to do, but he does want to get a schedule out so he can start the planning for these things. So, Jesse, if I could give you the floor for a little bit, just to explain a little more, that would be appreciated. And hopefully I said it correctly as well per our conversation yesterday.
Yep, sure thing. And thanks for the time. Thanks everybody for taking a look at this. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we're cutting out a little bit, but you're back.
Okay, let me know if I do cut out at all. But I think last time we had talked with that field, I was kind of showing a building. We were looking at doing a large venue there. But then with COVID, it worked out pretty well that we didn't end up pursuing that. So our new thing has been trying to use the outdoor space and keeping that as green space in the downtown Long Grove. Last year, we tried a couple of little things. We did a couple of movie nights, and we had some families come out for that. We did host Scarecrow, where the association had the families come out and building scarecrows, so we had them all do that. We also hosted the Winter Wonderland with the firefighters, where they had their winter walkthrough and taking pictures of Santa. And we've got the egg hunt set up. So basically, it's just kind of turned into an outdoor community space. And everything from those outdoor movies to, we had talked about doing dog adoption days where people can come out with their dogs and all over the place. But that's what Bill was talking about, is we have a few different types of ideas. And depending on the weekend, it might be a movie or it might be a festival with some scarecrow building, but that's kind of the snapshot of it.
Yeah, so I think, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that was it.
Okay.
No.
So the thought process was, I think, and I talked to interim manager Bill Balling, was that, we could approve the dates and then maybe have Jesse, at least in advance of them, give us, what he's going to do formally. I don't know if that necessarily has to come back before the board, but we would then, we would have that information. We could review what they are. And if there were issues with them, then we could come back to Jesse and say, hey, Jesse, we're hearing feedback that, your tango dancing is too loud or whatever, whatever you're doing out there, right? Outdoor ballroom dancing, whatever it is, we're getting some complaints, and he would try to address it. But the cool thing is you'd be bringing people into the downtown that would be visiting the establishments. It's very visible out there. When I've been in the downtown and he was doing the outdoor dancing, it was pretty neat during COVID. And I think there's still going to be a tepid feeling about using indoor spaces. And, I think this is a great thing, but I don't know how the rest of the board feels. So I'll open it up for conversation at this point and let the board share their thoughts. And Bill, did I accurately?
Yeah, I think the only footnote I put on there, Bill, is the special events permit is really more of an event permit, like we just talked about for the races. I mean, this is a great venue because it reads Long Grove throughout the entire warm season of the year, so it's great. But these are permits that are being issued, so there has to be some bookends of accountability, because it's going to fall on the shoulders of the village in terms of something needs to be adjusted during a 6 or 7 month period. And that's why I think periodically, if Jesse could notify the village, probably the village president or the village manager, what the next month's or 6 week plan looks like and get any feedback, I think that would adapt well for that. But really, this is a long season event. It's a great event. I think it's going to be a great draw and recovery strategy for the downtown as we go post-COVID. But I think having a periodic kind of check-in makes some sense, and it adapts better the special events permit, if you will, that's more focused on a singular event rather than a seasonal event. But I don't think it's the comments weren't intended to discourage the event, because I think it's going to be a great one for us.
I'll open it up for comment. Or
I just have one question. On the event permit, you show hours of operation from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. I'm assuming you want that 10-hour window, not so much because you're going to have 10-hour events, but you're not sure when some of these are going to start and stop. Is that correct?
Yes, you are correct. If we did a movie, obviously it's outdoor. We'd be waiting till the sun went down. So that might be something going on around 7 or whatever it might be. If we do something where it's a fitness, fitness expo, and we've got some classes and yoga that may be kicking off, right in the morning and go through the afternoon. So just kind of a window, but as we get closer, we'd be able to narrow down and have that schedule ahead of time.
Great, thank you.
Hi, it's Bobby. I think this is a great idea. And I think the permit is only really necessary to make certain that you're insured, that your porta potties are there, that your cleanup is there. And beyond that, I don't think we should have any necessarily rigid requirements for what you're going to do. The one thing that I would be concerned about, and I know you're sensitive to it, and that is sound. After 9 o'clock at night, sound is really important.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. That's and that is a good point. Obviously, being on the business association too, I'm akin to some of the sound concerns we've had with the large festivals and the big bands going on, and even some of the smaller bands over the last year. So just things that we're doing to address it, like with the movie night. I've got it's basically a long cord. It's called a snake, and so what that lets me do is add speakers in a few extra places around the field, so I can get more of an even sound to everyone there, versus taking 2 speakers and trying to throw that sound across the whole place. So that's just kind of an example of some of the things we're trying to do to make sure we're not exasperating anybody, but still trying to utilize that outdoor space.
Just as an aside, only because you're president, I assume that you have shared with other people doing things in the downtown area, how sensitive we are to sound complaints, that one needs to be really careful with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Hey,
Good.
hey, Jeff.
I think
Jeff
it's an
Perry.
exciting plan.
Hey, Jeff Perry, Chris, do we have anything in the books on like the sound propagation in terms of some kind of metric, as you know, sound pressure level, decibels at some distance, or should we?
I'll let Jeff think about that and offer a little bit of an answer. Yes, there
Thanks, Jeff.
are regulations in place, but actually the Illinois Pollution Control Board is the one that establishes those regulations. I think we have some generic regulations that say it can't be too loud, but the metric will be the one set up by the Illinois Pollution Control Board. They're decimal based and they depend on the time of day.
Do we know what those are in terms of something that the layperson can relate to without looking them up?
I offhand, I don't know. I know that I think it's 65 decibels is the standard during the day that drops down to either 62 or 60 at night. What does that, what is the comparable sound of that? I don't know. Is it like a lawnmower? I don't know. Or if it's like a refrigerator running. There are tables that kind of offer that, but I don't have that offhand. Jeff might.
I
Hey,
believe
Chris,
it's,
just
I
to
think
jump
it's
in,
55
I don't
dBA
get
is a lot
into reviewing that. I see that Jim Hoag's on the line here. Perhaps he's got more of that answers to those.
I guess I don't know if I need an answer. I guess I guess I'm just kind of concerned as we go through a carte blanche permit that we don't run into issues down the road. So I think Bill Balling's right on that we need to have a periodic review to make sure that we're not, you know, getting a whole bunch of unhappy neighbors. If you really think about our residential codes, we prohibit any kind of construction activity after 7 o'clock in respect to the neighbors, right? And yet here we're saying 10 o'clock is okay just because it's downtown. I mean, it's just an interesting conflict.
So let me offer two suggestions. One, because there's a series of requests in place and we don't have, as you were discussing, Chris, the track record, and we don't have the reactions of the neighbors, maybe we can make all of the subsequent approvals subject to compliance with the prior approval. So if they trip out of the gate, we at least reserve the right to either limit the hours or cancel the special event if, you know, for any future one. That's going to be a board decision, and it's probably something that you can evaluate based on how badly it falters. I don't mean to suggest it will falter, but just sort of throwing it out there. With respect to the noise, I would expect if we get a complaint, there's a way for someone to take a sound meter and assess whether or not it's compliant or not. And that will be the way on which we enforce it. So that's more discreet as to the event and the conditions, but we have a way of doing that.
Okay, that's really what I'm looking for, is that extra protection in case we need it, which I don't think we will. Obviously, I think it's a great idea too, but just being careful.
Are you ready for a motion?
I would love one with the caveat.
I would make a motion to approve the special events permit application for Metro North Inc. for multiple dance events, April 24th to November 27th, 2021.
And
Second.
with the caveat though, before you do that, right, about a review process, right? With you know,
With a 6-week review.
yes,
A continuous 6-week review.
right, with information being shared with us in advance of what those events are, right? So we know.
Right.
And subject to modification in the event of prior violations.
That works.
Okay.
Okay, so moved by Trustee O'Reilly, seconded by Trustee Micho.
I think it was O'Connor.
Oh, Chris
it's
Meyer,
Chris
okay.
Meyer.
Was it, okay, Ann, so second by Trustee Kritzmeyer. That's a roll call.
Trustee Michaud,
Aye.
Trustee O'Connor,
Aye.
trustee Nora,
Aye.
trustee O'Reilly,
Yes.
trustee Kritzmeyer,
Yes.
and trustee Borowski.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Jesse.
Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Jesse.
joining. Yep.
Looking
Thank you.
forward to the first of them.
Yeah, I'll be happy to have you.
All right, we're going to move right along. Jeff, we're going to need some help here because some of the information was missing. I didn't realize that until right before the meeting. But the MFT funds, we can use them for North Kruger. When we had talked about, we had asked the question and Jeff went and investigated that. So Jeff, why don't you explain what you just sent us and what we need to do tonight, if anything, to use those funds?
Sure, certainly. So at the last board meeting, we talked about the village's capital projects for 2021, and the discussion was had about the use of motor fuel tax money and can we use it on North Kruger Road. And my concern 2 weeks ago was looking into it to make sure that A, we could use it, but B, and maybe more importantly, the schedule of the project would not be impacted if motor fuel tax / Rebuild Illinois money was used for North Kruger Road. Found out that those monies can be used for the North Kruger Road construction without any impacts to the construction schedule and the bidding schedule. So what I sent out right before the meeting was the resolution should the village approve the authorization to use the funds. The resolution is in the amount of $375,000. So I want to break that down just a little bit for you guys tonight. So the village currently has $146,000 in their MFT account. That's a combination of $88,000 in Rebuild Illinois funds and $58,000 in motor fuel tax money. So the resolution before you, the $375,000 is a combination of $176,000 of Rebuild Illinois bond money and $200,000 in MFT money. If you recall the previous conversations, the village is getting 6 disbursements of $88,000 for Rebuild Illinois bond money. So currently the MFT account has the first disbursement for 2021 in it. The resolution before you tonight for $375,000 includes the second disbursement that the village will get later this year. Taking a step back, the village gets around $15,000 a month in motor fuel tax money. So that is tracking with what's in the account right now. The 4 months that have transpired since the last draw on the village's account, which was the funding of Cuba. So to go from 58,000 to 200,000, that's 9 months at $15,000. So that's in a nutshell where the $375,000 comes in and how that was derived. So if the village wants to use the motor fuel tax money, requires approval of that ordinance, then we'll get that process started and submit that to the state.
Hey, Jeff, what happens if we approve this tonight and we don't accrue that amount of money? What do we do?
Okay, so the resolution is, just the kind of the approval to spend the money, if you will. When the bills come in, the bills get reviewed by the village accountant, and if there's not money in the MFT account, she will certainly let us know that. Now, I will add this, that the state works with these resolutions on a calendar year. That's why it's based on what is currently in the village's account and what's projected by the end of 2021. Now, the village will likely not get an invoice to pay any construction monies for probably 2 years. The way the state funded projects work, as I mentioned earlier, the contract is with the state and the contractor. And under that arrangement, the state pays 100% of the construction cost. And then well after the project, they invoice the state, or they invoice the village their 20%, or in this case, it's not quite 20% because of the southern portion of the project. So it's not until well after the project is done that the state finalizes that number and sends the bill to the village. So probably won't see that till 2023, but you still want to project and plan on what you think is in the village's account right now, 2021.
So the
So we'll
rest,
want,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna say, so we'll want to project that, and we'll also want to earmark and make sure that it's marked very clearly, not available for any other purpose until we get to
So
the
it'd
new
be,
amount.
yeah, like a set aside or whatever nomenclature you want to use.
Okay.
And what we have in email is it's Illinois State Department of Transportation resolution, right? That's formally what we would be approving tonight. And you need that done at this point, right? This evening?
So it's, I was talking with interim manager Balling about this. It's best to get this on the books and over to the state before construction starts. There's avenues that they can approve it later on in the year if that's what the village would like to do. It's just a cleaner process at this point.
Well, I'll open it up to the board. Are there any comments or concerns and using the funding this way? It's there. We can use it. And we can use our other monies for other capital improvements. It's just, it probably makes sense to use this for this project.
Is there any reason we shouldn't do it tonight?
I don't think there's a, well, I mean, I'll ask Bill or Jeff, but if
Yeah,
you.
it was intended to be in the packet. That was my drop on that one, that Jeff had that's ready to go, and that would, but it has been distributed to the board, so it went out electronically.
I can show it to you if you haven't seen it. I can bring it up on the screen if you want.
Yeah, it's an MFT resolution, which is a state. It's not a negotiable resolution. It's fill the blanks is what it comes down to. But I agree with the comments of the board. This is a great use for MFT, and looking, you don't have total flexibility. You don't have total flexibility on the use of MFT funds. It has to be directed at motor fuel qualifying projects. So, and Kruger Road's a big project. It's going to be a great improvement for the village, and it seems to fit on point with where you'd want to be spending your MFT on long range capital projects.
And it's going to North Long Grove, so I would move to approve.
And a girl. Good for you, Jenny.
You guys are funny.
I'm looking out for you, Bobby and Chris.
Okay, is that a formal motion, or is there any other dialogue?
I say let's spend the money. So I would make a motion.
So moved by Trustee Michaud. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, seconded by Trustee O'Reilly. That's a roll call.
Trustee Borowski.
Although I like the motorcycle quality and ride of North Kruger Road as it currently is, I think we need to go ahead and do this. So yes.
Trustee Kritzmeyer.
Yes, this has been a long planned project. I'm glad to see it proceed.
Trustee O'Reilly.
Yes.
Trustee Nora.
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor.
Hi, yes.
And Trustee Michaud.
Yes.
All right, motion carried.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff and Bill, for scrambling. I didn't notice that till the last minute. So that we have on the agenda next is the ordinance approving the intergovernmental agreement, basically to renew our sheriff contract. And so I don't know if interim manager Bill Balling wants to take the swat at this and introducing it, or if You want me to, or Chris does? So you guys tell me.
Chris, you want to take a side? This is a continuation of what's been a pretty solid contract for us. And we were able to, through negotiations with the business officer of the county and the undersheriff, to work out a couple of things that were important. One of the things that Chris raised, and I think it was an excellent point, is, you know, what happens if we see some things that require redeployment, reshifting of schedules. And there was some important language, and I left it in red highlight just to stand it out, that we do have some opportunity to open discussions with the sheriff as a matter of contract right if we see something that needs redeployment. And it's not the point that we want to manage this policing. We want, you know, we're contracting for the sheriff, but the need to meet and confer, I think, is an important one. And in section 1A, I think we accomplished that goal pretty well. We also had actually a continuing dialogue in terms of public access, or at least village access, to recorded materials that may be the sheriff. And we had both a philosophical and legal debate on that with the undersheriff in terms of they're somewhat constrained on, this is the police body camera issue. One thing I learned from the process is those cameras are FOIable. Now, you get a redacted version of the film. So I don't know if it goes much farther than the officer getting out of his car, but it is a FOIable document. And it was unclear to me that was a FOIable document. I thought it was more available to the courts. So we have some avenue. We did actually even float a sort of a novel idea of buying a set of cameras and having a Long Grove camera on the one side and a sheriff camera on the other. And we wanted to grab that image from the Long Grove camera, but there's a downside to some of that, because then it becomes, are those in play for active management of the policing rather than just relying on the sheriff? So it's going to be something. What we ended up with was and even though this agreement is written in a standard form for the county, the undersheriff made a strong commitment to us that, look, we're going to provide you information, and anything that's strategic that we need to know about, that there will be a direct contact to alerting probably the village president, possibly the village manager, of an incident, so we can keep the board informed on this thing. And you know, we had some cases where that just didn't happen in the last year, 18 months. And so I said, this is really an important issue for us. And, you know, we like to maintain our credibility in the community as well on major events. We did leave ourselves some wiggle room that we can define and change the events as we see. But the conversation actually went far enough that they said if we wanted to get access to the day reports that the shift officer prepares, they'd make that available. I don't think that's necessarily on a daily basis, because I think it would just be sort of 90% time routine data, but they have to accept it, and they offered it to us. So I think we made some progress on that avenue, but in terms of the opportunities to get direct access to unredacted tape, I think that's pretty much a reach that we're not going to get with this contract. So Chris, I don't know if you want to put a footnote on that, where you think we are with the contract at this point.
Yeah, Bill, thank you. No, I think that was an excellent summary. Hey, Bill, Jacob, do we want to, or just ask the trustees, does anybody want to look at that PDF with the cost at all, the hourly rates? Have you guys all had a chance to look at it?
Yes. Yes.
I have about a dozen questions on the agreement.
Okay, so you want to start there, or do you want me to show a screen or something? You tell me, Chris.
Bobby, why don't you start with your questions? I think that's fine. I mean, if you got questions, let's roll.
Okay.
Don't know if I can answer them.
Who controls the prosecutor? Who hires him? Who fires him? Who does he report to? I've asked these questions for years. I've never gotten an answer. So I'm going to put certain that I get an answer based upon this agreement.
I'm gonna ask Vic to help me with that, but I think it's our prosecutor that takes care of these cases. Isn't it, Vic?
The answer is it depends on the offense. If they are violations of village ordinances, then the village prosecutor, who the village retains and selects,
Who does the prosecutor report to?
typically the manager, and through the manager, the board.
Yeah, it used to be Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, I have never in almost 4 years seen one sentence about the prosecutor. So let me go to that first 1A that you mentioned, and it just didn't make sense to me that you'd have all this verbiage and then it would say the request will be denied. Could you explain that?
Yeah, Bobby, what it pertains to, in my understanding, is that if our request to move a shift around coincides with a special event, it's not really the intention of the discussion. What we want to do is take that entire shift for a month and move it to a midnight shift, or we want to take that entire shift for a month and move it to Sundays. There's a provision that if we need extra sheriff for special events, that's a separate engagement. All right, so that's what this is about. So they're saying don't come to us for a special event. We already know you're going to have them, so we're not moving a shift around just for that. I think that's what that says.
Right. Correct.
Okay, that clears that up for me. In 1D, establish and maintain a record system for processing data relative to the incidence of arrests, reports of crime, and disposition of cases which shall be reported to the village on a monthly basis. I have never seen an arrest report in the sense of, I don't know whether they arrest one person a month or 70 a month. I have no knowledge of that. And I have no knowledge of, do they issue one ticket a month or 50 tickets a month? And if so, how much revenue does that generate? How much does our prosecutor charge to prosecute those arrests? And what do we get?
Those are achievable numbers. I mean, first of all, there's a burr in our saddle with regard to reporting generally. The sheriff is in the process of upgrading their computer-aided dispatching, this CAD system that's supposed to revolutionize their reporting and improve their efficiency. I've tasked Denise. I've tasked Denise.
Certainly the number of arrests in a given period of time, I don't care whether it's a week, a month, or quarter, is information that we should have, and I've never seen it. I don't know if other people see it. I've never seen it.
I think it's reachable information in terms of arrest, because it's public record material. It's just a matter of getting it organized and prepared in a report. You know, when I first got here, I tasked Denise to really kind of make sense out of the police data dump that we were getting, and that's literally what it was. And you know, she's attempted to format just some of it just to get a general knowledge on what's going on, and you know, time of day trends and accident and incident trends. But every time we've approached that to the sheriff, they said, you know, the end is near. We've got a new system coming online. I know that the new CAD systems are much more robust if they're moving to upgrade. I don't know the details of that upgrade, but they've committed to us that the reporting will improve. And if we can move to a point of how many arrests we've had. I'm sorry.
Do you know whether it includes how many arrests are in a period of time? Who prosecutes them? What revenue is raised? What portion do we get? What does the prosecutor get?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know this.
Bobby, I agree. I don't mean to cut you off. I agree, but that's not necessarily the sheriff's responsibility, with the exception of, you know, kind of giving us the reports that they're capable of giving us. The prosecutor revenue, the prosecutor costs, it's all something that village staff should be doing, right?
I know you're right. but,
All right.
but one leads to the other.
Sure,
Um,
fully
the arrest
understand.
leads
Yeah.
to- and I've tried for years to get this information, and it is never forthcoming. My next question is, when one of our deputies has to go to court, do we pay them?
I think we do.
Or
I
they
think that's
just-
one of the
I
cost
assume they don't
components
leave-
is,
I assume that they do not leave their shift, but I also assume that we're paying them.
well, they could leave it. It's possible they leave their shift because we do have relief personnel when somebody takes like a sick day or something like that. We always have our shift covered.
Well, no, I mean leaving us without a shift person.
Yeah, no, I think we're getting, I mean, what we're, the basic service we're contracting for is 17 and a half hours a day and 2 shifts that we've got, that they've got covered. So you have relief officers.
Okay,
and you have primary officers.
That's part of my question is, we continue to have coverage. Then do we pay them for court time?
Yeah, and I think that's part of the detail. I think that's, I can't remember if that's listed as premium pay or special pay or something. Chris, do you remember? Is it in there or no?
I don't think we pay them extra for that, Bobby. I don't think I don't think we pay them extra for them to go to court.
The
So
contract,
we pay full freight when they're going to court.
the contract states that it covers them going to court. It doesn't say that we pay extra for that.
That's
Yeah, but I think it's a factor in the computation because they're trying to standardize the units. So they are getting compensated. They have a factor in the salary component of that of the charge that supports that. I don't think they eat I don't think the county eats court time for an officer writing tickets for us. I think they build that in as a. I don't think it's called premium pay, but it may be called court pay. I've got a.
Okay, it was not totally addressed, which is the reason for my question.
Yeah.
And then I'm in paragraph H, and in summary, it's that they will collect, that the fines and forfeitures are the villages, except if applicable, all fines and forfeitures resulting from offenses within the village that do not occur during performance of this contractual service or are not prosecuted by the village shall be paid to the county. Like what?
Well, I
goes
think it's
back-
outside
Well,
the
two
limits of.
things here.
Go ahead,
I'm
Nick.
sorry.
Go ahead,
Two
go
things.
ahead, please.
One, the nature of the violation will make a difference. If it's an ordinance violation, that would be something that the village would prosecute, the village would get the fines for. If it is a state law violation, for example, a felony, that would be a state law violation. The state's attorney's office would be the ones that prosecute it. And if a fine is accompanied by it, there will not be any return to the village on that. As far as outside the contract, if we have, coverage at all times, except let's say between 1 and 5 in the afternoon, and a ticket is issued during that time, that's not going to be something that's within the coverage period. So therefore, the village would not get the fines for that.
So if they do a fine at 3:30 in the morning, we don't get that fine.
If
Well,
that's
not-
not within our coverage time, that's
No.
outside the terms of the contract.
Oh, boy, okay.
Yeah, because we got
Okay.
6 hours that we don't have contracted service. And if they come in here and respond to a call or see a call or something happens that a sheriff writes that, then that would be theirs.
Can I say that another way? We do have service. It's just not our dedicated patrol officers.
Right, yeah, yes, that's a clear.
Well,
way
they
to put
have
it.
to be here in order to issue the ticket.
Right.
Okay. Oh, maintain an active community-oriented policing program. Is that something we're doing now? And if so, how and when and where?
Well,
That's one of the areas that, and this is not new language on this contract. This is one of the areas, and we'll get to this later on in the evening with regard to some improvements for things. But there hasn't been really aggressive active management on a staff basis to build these kind of things up. I think there's a willingness on the county to do that. And if it's a walk around in the downtown area, if it's a presence, there are opportunities to do that. Community policing is important. We
haven't been doing it.
well, can I step in here for a second? Because I inferred that to mean if you form a neighborhood watch, they will support the HOA.
Well, that would be one of them, sure.
Doing that. And I know we did it a number of years ago. I don't think it's still together. But I put it in that kind of a bucket, and they'll come and help you do it because they helped us set one up.
Yeah, that'd be a good illustration as well. But I think they'd do more if you ask them to do more and say, we want a little bit of foot traffic, an hour a day if we got a busy time downtown or someplace else. I think they'd, if it wasn't a special duty, as part of their shift, they'd be willing to do that.
Well, I guess I see that these community contacts are supposed to be documented and shared with the village manager on a monthly basis.
Yeah, no,
if we're gonna say it, we ought to do it.
Well, there is, in part of the data dump that we do get, there is some other events sometimes are listed, but mostly it's just other things or unassigned duties, meaning you're not responding to a call, you're just making yourself present. It needs some additional active management between the village and the sheriff's office to clearly define what the expectation is and let us know what's happening. So that's a very fair question, and they're willing to do it.
Okay. And then Q. So I assume that that's suggesting that it's at a different special duty rate. And is that special duty rate higher or lower than our standard rate?
Let me think about that for a minute. Well, if it's an overtime rate for the existing shift person, I think it's going to be at a higher rate. If it's special duty work where we're pulling the special event, I think that's at the contract rate, but we pay more money for that. Like if we want them present for Strawberry Fest and we need that, I think that's I think they cover that with an additional person at straight rate.
Okay, so when you see an application for an event and there's $70 in it, is that the rate?
I think it probably is the contract rate is what they charge you, unless they go overtime, unless they're working, you got one shift working like 10 hours or 11 hours. Then they'd be eligible for some overtime under that basis. Because I think everything is based on the.
Who decides overtime? Who decides overtime?
Well, it would be an active part of the sheriff's management duties. I don't think we could ask them not to do it, but I don't think we could require them not to do it if they felt in their judgment they had additional coverage that needed.
So they decide. So they decide.
No,
okay.
I think it's a little bit more. I don't think it's that straightforward, Bobby. My understanding with when Dave was around, whenever we had these special events or we needed extra patrols, it was a unique discussion case by case, depending on what it was supposed to be. And I think like the special patrols down at Schaefer Checker were discussed with Dave on a case by case basis. And that hourly rate, man, I don't know how to put my finger on it right now, but I thought it was lower than our contracted rate. And I don't know why I keep thinking that, but I could be totally wrong. But they're all discussed case by case. I'd like to
see that so that we know these things. The next paragraph should be R and not P.
Yeah.
And then in 2C, maintain orientation materials for the citizens of the village. Like what? I mean,
Well, they talk a good story about that app that they just put out.
oh, well, that was more about them than it was about us.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're just getting it rolled out. I think they want to do more with it than it is right now. But I know in the conversations we had, they were boosting that as like, this is a whole new initiative for us.
And then we provide the sheriff with the appropriate citation books. Do we? Do we do that?
I've never seen that ever.
I can't answer that one.
And then the next item, provide the sheriff from time to time with a listing of such village ordinances which the sheriff shall enforce. Do we do that?
Well, it hasn't been done since I've been here, but I think it gives them the CYA that they can't enforce, they can't arrest what they don't know. So the burden on that would make sure that the village provides them proper notice on what the ordinances of the village are. That didn't come up in our discussions, and it didn't jump out at me, other than if we're expecting them to do it, they should have reasonable access to what our expectations and codes are. That would be our burden.
If we're asking them to, and employing them to enforce our ordinances, I would think that we would need to keep them abreast of what it is we're asking them to do. And I don't think we changed that much, but do they know? And so because I don't know, what I don't know is I don't know how many tickets are issued. I don't know what those tickets are issued on. I don't know what kind of revenue we get from it. I don't know the prosecutor. I don't know what we earn from it. So I have a lot of empty parts as far as this whole program is concerned. I'm not against the contract. I heartily endorse the sheriff as being a good contract, but I do think that we need to know things that we haven't known before. End of my story.
Okay.
One more comment though too. This is the same contract that all of the municipalities are using that they contract with too. So that's the other odd thing about this contract too.
I've never been one that's comfortable because other people do it.
No, I didn't mean it that way. I just meant that there's other things plugged into there, Bobby, that they have in this agreement. It's their standard agreement. So that's all I meant.
Well, I think that we need to be holding up our end of the bargain.
Well, Bobby, if you look at very good point. But if you look at the letter of this contract too, in some cases, it's really clear the sheriff's not holding up their end of the bargain too, right? I think there's a clause in here that said monthly attend meetings, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, so really at the end of the day, I guess we could fire Vic up and we can go after the county and sue him, I guess. But
oh no, we wouldn't want to do that.
No, I'm kidding, of course.
Sergeant Ryan Amber will be joining our meetings.
Anymore.
He will be. He's going to join the first meeting of each month because we dialogued over the weekend. So.
Can somebody briefly explain the contractual wage cost to me? The page that we received in the packet.
In the PDF?
Yeah, well, it's 2,063 hours, total hourly rate, indirect rate, total hourly rate with indirect cost. Can you just run through that quickly for me?
Bill, is that something you could put up?
I will put it up. It's so exciting. I'm going to put it up.
It is exciting. And I'm hoping Bill Balling can kind of walk through it because I've read it about 3 times.
I was just going to say, Chris, you got it, buddy.
Don't use, you got the Excel sheet, huh?
Which one do you want?
Well, I mean, basically what the business administrator, and that's, and that I don't think he's a sworn officer. I think he's a business administrator, standardizes these contracts and puts together the like this SLEP, that's the rate, the annual rate charge on for their pensions. And all of the costs that he's trying to normalize and standardize at the time that the contracts renew. So these would represent as close as they can come to the unit costs that roll in to the actual proposal in dollars that we're paying for the hours. Everything is driven by hours on the beat and assigned personnel. And so it's the sheriff's or the sheriff's office intent to be one, transparent in terms of understanding what the costs are and trying to be uniform, that everybody that renews in the cycle when all the rates are come out and everything are all consistent.
I understand. I understand all of that. I get it. I don't understand the difference between the total hourly rate and the total hourly rate with the indirect cost. What is an indirect cost?
An indirect cost, give me 30 seconds to think about that, because I think it's the days that it's a surcharge on the time that goes beyond the hourly shift. It goes beyond things like leap years, a day that hits on there. It goes on, I think it goes on holiday pays, because, you know, police officers work on shift and they get paid for holidays. They paid at a different rate when they work on a holiday. I think those are the indirect hourly costs that were in there, and they try to roll those in to, as I say, to the contracted hourly rate, which we have 17 hours or 17 and a half hours in active policing service that we have, that they seek to recover the costs on.
So are we reimbursing them for their expense, or are we reimbursing with a tip on it?
No, they're very deliberate in their description that they said, look, we are not this is not a for-profit business. We want to break even, and we have to show enough costs that we can break even, and we want to be as fair as we possibly can.
Okay.
And when they talked to us about that, they said, you know, this is coming, this is core policy. They don't want to have change. They want the county board wants it as uniform as possible and as precise as possible.
Okay.
You know, that being said, there are some little exceptions that, you know, they let you know when they give you a favor. Like we had the fleet, they used kind of the mean age of the fleet. So you get a little bit of benefit from like if you had 2 new cars, you'd actually be paying at a higher number, and they have an average rate for the car issue. The other thing is that they don't really charge us a factor on the mileage. You know, Long Grove's a bigger, you know, for per capita, it's a bigger village than many of the villages that they work with, and we get an indirect benefit on that because they've got to cover more area in terms of the car depreciations and things like that. But they try to make it as precise as they can, and they're beholden to the direction of the county board, which says, you know, don't make money on this, but don't lose money on it. So,
you know, they've been telling us that they are working on this computer system for about the past year. So, you know, it's like, period, end of story. I'm finished.
No, I got a couple comments if I could, Rita,
Sure.
if I may. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what's included in that indirect number, but typically the way that chart's broken out, you see that first kind of row is what they actually pay the officer based on average officer pay
Yes.
rate.
Yes.
Right. And then below that is the indirect stuff. So now indirect's going to include, you know, cleaning of the office. It's going to include car washes. It's going to include all that other, you know, staff members behind the scenes of that officer that are supporting him. It may even include some dispatch people, you know, that kind of thing. So it's not just his base rate. So I think that's where the indirect piece of it comes from.
Okay.
So that's to me, my understanding of what indirect labor is. It's not for his salary. You asked a question about like the 2,060 hours or whatever that number was at the top of that sheet.
Yes.
That is how many hours that officer is going to work in a year. So this whole calculation is based on one officer and what it takes to support that one officer.
Well,
But
this is not two of them. Because
no, that's for one officer.
Okay, I
And
got it.
actually, it's not just two of them, it's three of them because we've got 7-day-a-week coverage, right? So when you do the calculation on 7-day-a-week coverage to shifts, you know, it's basically 17 hours times 365 days. And if we want to do the math, it's like 6,000 hours-ish or something like that. So that spreadsheet was trying to calculate the cost that they think it takes to provide that officer and that car on an hourly rate. And at the bottom of the sheet, I think, Bill, it showed like $105 an hour or something, 106 or something like that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I estimated.
108.
108. Yeah, that was kind of the number I estimated in my head when we were talking at the last meeting. So at the end of the day, that's what it costs us to put that officer in a car in Long Grove per hour. Is that $108?
Go back a little bit.
Mhm.
We don't have 24-hour coverage. If we have two officers working 17 hours, we have 17 hours of coverage.
Correct, but they also work Saturday and Sunday, so it's 7 days a week.
Right.
Right. So when you multiply those man hours out, it's 17 times 7 per week. So that's 70. I can't do math in my head in public. 119
Right, but it's
hours.
not 20. It's not 24 hours.
Correct.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And that was a provision that we tried to make with that kind of the wording that said if we want to shift those shifts around, we
Right.
can't have the ability to talk to those guys about it, and maybe move things around a little bit.
Got it. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, if you,
17 times 365 is 6,205. So
right, and when you
that's
do
the
the math
simple
of
Yeah.
thanks, Bill, appreciate that. When you do the math times, times 365 days, it's 600 some $1,000, which is where they're at.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
I kind of agree. I mean, I agree with everybody's emotion on the data issue, right? It's been an issue forever. I mean, what I learned, or what I think I learned in the discussions with the sheriff, is they're not overly happy either about the fact that they've got a 15-year-old outdated computer. And I really truly believe that it's not just in their control. I mean, they've got to get money from the Lake County Board to be able to do that, and that's got to be prioritized and put through the board for approval. It's not like the sheriff can just come up with whatever money it takes to do that. So, I think they wholeheartedly believe and know that their system is really in need of upgrade. I mean, they've heard it from all their contract communities, I think.
Well,
So
they must have the same problem with their own service, to the county.
But Chris,
I
wasn't
agree
there
with that.
another element though, that there was some 911 update going on or upgrade going on, and they kind of had to wait for some things to be in place before they could upgrade their system? So wasn't there some conversation about that in the meeting, if I recall correctly?
No, you're right, Bill. I don't remember the details of, but you're right. They were waiting for an upgrade too. Yeah, that's right.
So they couldn't do their part until something else happened, which meant that something is going to happen in the next couple of years, but it's a few years out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're all kind of frustrated with that whole data. But a lot of Bobby's points earlier are also valid too, but really a lot of those are on us and staff to go chase, right, in terms of the revenue stream. The ticket count. Go ahead.
Most of my concerns are our reporting.
Yeah.
We're not passing it along or we're not getting it.
Yeah, and if you do look at the ticket counts, it's not very high on the monthly report that Denise does publish. It's pretty thin, and we actually had that dialogue with the sheriff's department. There's a little bit of a concern going on right now when they do traffic stops, in that they want to make sure they've got a second backup car relatively close by. Okay. And that's really
Totally
for
understandable.
safety, right? So, they're not really, I mean, to paraphrase, and they could be doing something completely different, but to paraphrase, my understanding was they're a little bit, I don't want to say sluggish, but they just want to make sure safety protocols are in place before they just start pulling people over too.
One other thing that I'd like us pursuing as far as information for the board, and that is how many tickets were issued on bridge damage? Were any of them prosecuted? Did we earn anything from them? And did we get insurance reimbursement on all of them?
Well, I know there's at least 2 pending that I've got on my desk that happened about 7 days apart that haven't been filed with the insurance carriers. Actually, we did get a little bit emotional on that in terms of, if a commercial driver, ignores 7 warning signs, at what point do you write them 7 tickets? I don't want to say that everybody that gets caught under that bridge gets a ticket, but they should. And I think we had that conversation, Chris, when we had them on there. I mean, ultimately, officer discretion is core to policing, and it's also core to bad policing. So, but we did make that point that, we're suffering not only in the prestige of the town, but the financials of the town, and these, we have conspicuous signage, and more than, you'd think that you get stuck on that bridge, you got to at least go home with at least 1 ticket. And I can't say that always happens. And I didn't hear that when we raised it. So
What's the justification for that?
Disobeying traffic control.
No. Why aren't tickets being issued?
Well, I think it gets back to officer discretion. Maybe they show some sympathy. Maybe the guy shows some remorse. Maybe if he was intoxicated, then I would think you'd have to get a,
then would we get money?
That's crazy.
But would we get money if the person who hit the bridge was intoxicated? Would we get any money from a
let's
ticket?
see. We should, Vic. Do we?
If it's somebody's 4th conviction, that's probably a felony, and so that portion of the ticket, that portion of the ticket would be prosecuted by the state's attorneys. We would not see that, but the various actions of ignoring our height limitations and other restrictions could still be prosecuted from our prosecutor's office. I know that Dave had mentioned at a prior meeting that the standard packet of violations that are identified in the event of somebody hitting the bridge were a series of 3 separate violations, and there was a $2,250 maximum fine. Keep in mind, while that may be our maximum fine, a judge can issue $50 as the fine for each of those violations. So what we put as our fine threshold isn't necessarily what a judge is going to ultimately levy as the fine for a motorist.
But I don't even know if they issue a ticket.
From my
the fine point is how much it is.
Yeah, no, from my understanding, they have routinely issued 3, and I don't remember what particular violation. I know one was the height violation, one was violating a sign, and I don't recall what the 3rd one was.
There's a weight limit. There's a weight limit.
Yeah, but the weight doesn't necessarily result in striking the bridge. There may be a weight violation as well, but I thought that Dave had mentioned that there were 3 standard violations that were part of the package if you hit the bridge. And there had been some discussion. I wasn't privy to those, but there had been some discussion about trying to further identify or enact provisions that would basically continue to load up the violations if you hit the bridge. And the concern was that you'd have a judge start to nullify some of those violations and you wouldn't see the same result. So the package of violations that had been used, the village prosecutor, sheriff's department, and Dave had talked about initially, and they felt that that was a good combination in terms of presenting these situations to a court.
What was a good combination?
The 3 violations that they would issue for striking the bridge. I think one was damage to public property. I think that might have been the 3rd one.
But we're saying the tickets are not being issued. So
I don't know that. My understanding is that they had been, but I don't know that.
well, so what, do we have to decide that we want tickets issued and instruct the officer such, or is it strictly up to the officer discretion? How does that work?
Well, it comes through the command structure of the Lake County Sheriff's Office. We raised it in the contract negotiations, and we'll raise it again with them. Say, look, this is, and we told them, we said, this is.
I don't know where anybody got the idea we're not issuing tickets for bridge strikes. I thought in my conversations with Dave, and my understanding prior to Dave's departure was pretty regimented. And I think Vic's nodding his head up and down. I thought they were just issuing tickets anytime anybody hit the bridge. I didn't think that was ever a question. That's just Chris's opinion.
I think the question is, Chris, we're not being aware.
I understand that, but I think that's an issue that we need to chase with our prosecutor, don't we, Vic? Or who's got that information?
I would presume that the prosecutor would be the one most knowledgeable about that. The sheriff's office would be a witness, but they may not see the case to the conclusion.
Chris, my point in all of this is that we don't know.
Right. I don't disagree with you, Bobby, but it just.
Yeah, no, I didn't say we weren't issuing them. I don't have that much knowledge.
Right. Understood.
All right, so where do we go from here tonight? I guess there's information that we've been all asking for, right? And the fines, and that goes back 6 years ago, right? What are we actually collecting? I don't know. We need to get that information, but if I understand correctly, we're on a bit of a timeline to get the sheriff contract approved, because they also have to ratify it or approve it at one of their board meetings, and our contract.
They've actually got 2 meetings, Mayor. They've got the committee meeting, which they have tentatively penciled in for March, and then the board meeting, which I think is probably going to be the first meeting in April for them, and our contract runs through April 30th. So this would be a good time for us to pass it. There's a lot of questions that were raised on information sharing and reporting and analysis. I think we've got to look internally as well as externally in terms of what are we getting and what are the needs of the board in terms of reporting, and then move that in the direction that we can get satisfactory information in a timely manner to the board. And that's as much an internal project as there's a sheriff's project, and see where that, see where that ends up. I don't think, I think you rightly pointed out, there's not a lot of room for negotiation in these contracts. They try to make them fair. They tried to price them fairly. But I think in our conversations, it came up at least 2 or 3 times that don't make me go back to the state's attorney with suggested language, because we're not going to accomplish that. So, and
Chris, are you ready to do this?
Oh, Bobby, I don't think we really have much of a choice. I think the contract.
I don't either.
Yeah, we don't really have a choice, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's a good choice, and we've got a 90-day termination clause in this agreement. If we want out, 3 months notice and we're out. So if we come up with a better
approach. You
approach.
want to make the motion?
No, I'll move to approve it. I have no issue with that.
And
I
I'll
think
second.
we just need to do it.
Okay, so that was moved by Trustee Browski, seconded by Trustee O'Reilly. Amy, if you're still there, that is a roll call vote.
Trying to get back to, okay, and I put my paper down and my pen. All right, so that was Trustee O'Reilly making the motion.
That was
No,
Chris.
Trustee Borowski
Chris
made
and
the
Bobby.
motion, seconded by Trustee O'Reilly.
Okay, thank you. All right, Trustee Borowski,
Aye.
Trustee Kritzmeyer.
Aye.
Trustee O'Reilly.
Aye.
Trustee Nora.
Aye.
Trustee O'Connor.
Aye.
And Trustee Michelle.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would hope that we would not let all of the issues that I raised tonight fall through the cracks.
Yeah, but this has happened every year since I've been on the board. We bring this,
Not about the prosecutor,
we bring,
not about Ticket's issue.
I'm-
We've never
okay.
we've never discussed the prosecutor.
Well, let's see if we can do a better job here. We're also going to have a new village manager as well, too. And let's hope that we can, put some processes in place to make sure we get this information. Bobby? All right, I'm going to move us along to the next item on the agenda, which is an ordinance approving amendment to the building plan review inspection services pertaining to property maintenance with Village of Mundelein. This is because Buffalo Grove, they stopped offering the service to us. We don't really have a firm to do this. Since we're doing they're doing the building inspections now, it was thought that this would be an easy way for code enforcement that we could bring them into the fold for that and enter into an agreement. So Village Manager Balling, do you want to provide us a readout on that?
Yes, yeah, we've been working with the village manager and the director of building, Pete Schubkagel, on developing what will be an amendment to the building services agreement we have. We currently are engaged for plan review services and new construction inspection services. This would be what they call code enforcement and I call property maintenance. It's been interchangeable, same thing. It's existing properties to make sure they're up to snuff. They've been, since Buffalo Grove left, they've been providing T&M services to the village for about a month. And actually they've been pretty responsive. We just had one today where we had a drive-by going past the old flower market there. What is it? The Onan property or whatever.
Onan.
Yeah, somebody thought that the roof was caving in. So they've scheduled an inspection tomorrow to see, and then we're probably going to put a do not occupy sticker on there, depending on what they find for one of the sheds that they used to grow flowers in. That's been a persistent problem, that whole area, the fencing and the building itself. So they're taking an active role in that. This amendment would put us in contract with them. One of the issues that came up, and I'm going to ask Vic for assist on this, is they want us to use administrative adjudication, which I recommend, but they want to align that to their administrative officer. And I think we have the flexibility. We do this practice ourselves. We have the structure, the legal structure in place in order to make that happen. So we would get not only the code enforcement services, but we'd also be coordinating with the adjudication officer that Mundelein uses for the same properties that they take care of in Mundelein. And that creates an efficiency for them as well. Vic, could you just clarify?
I'll be happy to.
Thank you.
As you may recall, the village does have an administrative adjudication provision in the code. But we've never set up our own in-house system. We have, as part of our ordinance, the ability to contract with another administrative adjudication system and basically morph into theirs and allow their adjudicator to be our adjudicator. So I think that from our perspective, we don't need to change anything in our ordinance to merge into the Mundelein system other than the ordinance that's before you tonight and the ultimate execution of the agreement with Mundelein. If Mundelein feels like there's some need to make a tweak, we can make a tweak, but frankly, I don't think that will be required. So from the adjudication perspective, we have it teed up, but we just don't have the system in place. That's what Mundelein would be providing pursuant to this contract. One note otherwise is that They gave us a proposal. It's not the formal contract. So the ordinance that's before you would approve the proposal and direct that a contract consistent with that proposal be signed by the village manager in consultation with the attorney.
Hey, Vic, though, this is, even if we sign a contract, all we're really doing is providing the ability to have these services for right now. And if something comes along, and we want to change that, we're not locked in, correct?
Well, we don't have the contract yet. We do have much like the sheriff's contract, we have a termination for convenience provision in our current contractual arrangement with Mundelein. So we would have to exercise that. The one thing that will need to be worked out is whether that can be break away from the building stuff. We can certainly have that as the approach that we pursue with Mundelein if that's the board's direction.
Well, absolutely, because I mean, the whole idea here was it was convenient. Buffalo Grove dropped the service. I mean, I actually went to look at the Buffalo Grove contract we had to compare it to this contract, and it's very similar. But what if we don't like it? You know, we may want to do something else. So I don't think we want to be locked in, but we don't want to disrupt the other services that we have right now because that's working well.
We'll make sure that that is incorporated into the agreement, and we'll tweak the ordinance that's before you to reflect that.
I would let
All right. Chris has no idea what we're talking about. I'll be honest with you. I'm Googling the word adjudicator here to understand what it is we're trying to accomplish. Is there,
in real
something more
short
in the-
order, typically when we have, as we were just discussing with the sheriff, typically when there is any kind of ordinance violation, it would go to the circuit court. Our prosecutor would present that before a judge, and the judge would make the determination. For building code types of, and particularly property maintenance types of violations, the Illinois Municipal Code allows that to be done essentially by a local court, not the circuit court of Lake County, but a local court, this administrative adjudicator. It's a system that has to be formally set up, and our ordinance technically has set it up. We just don't implement it because our ordinance also says that we can implement it through intergovernmental agreements with another system that has an adjudication set up. So we're basically going to have our ordinance be a conduit to put us into the Mundelein adjudication system for these property maintenance violations. It is a truncated kind of review and determination. So rather than a formal court proceeding, it's done by a lawyer who's been identified as the adjudicator, who does this on a very, short order basis.
And it's done right in the Mundelein Village Hall, as I understand. They have a regular call for this, so it makes it real efficient.
So I'm still not sure I'm like on board with this concept in any way, but
let me identify this as three different components. One is just the building permit process. That's what we've been doing with Mundelein now for some time. Two is the property maintenance stuff. That's what we had Buffalo Grove doing before. When Buffalo Grove was doing our property maintenance work, if someone, they were not quick to the trigger. They didn't say, oh, you have a broken sash on that window, here's a ticket, go see the adjudicator. They usually work with the resident or is most of the downtown buildings to get things done. It was only after someone was persistently ignoring them that they might issue a ticket. And that ticket, rather than going to the circuit court of Lake County, would go down to the Buffalo Grove Village Hall. There would be someone who would have essentially the powers of a judge to say you're in violation and you're required to pay X dollars.
Okay.
And so when Buffalo Grove stopped doing the maintenance inspections, they also stopped providing the adjudication services. Mundelein is simply going to be the new Buffalo Grove in those two arenas.
So we got this fee schedule that's in this table, $80 for this, $40 for that. What's the 75,000 for?
That's a different subject, Chris, for later.
I'm very confused,
No,
man. I'm lost. That's why I'm
No,
saying
that's
I'm
a-
lost,
for
Yeah,
man.
no,
This
the
is-
75,000, that's a different issue. That's not part of this. That's not part of this.
Okay.
That's not
I
part of it.
believe I believe it's an over, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Let's-
something that would be for executive session.
Yeah. So that somehow got tucked into the board packet. It was confusing.
Okay.
It proves that Chris read it.
I'm trying to. I'm like really confused. I'm going, I don't understand. Where did this stuff
Yeah,
come
no,
from?
no,
But
that,
what we- Can I
that
make
one's
this really
the flight
simple?
going to
Like,
the
we need
east coast.
somebody
We're
to
on the
do-
flight going
build-
to the west coast.
We need somebody to do building inspections. So we don't have a contract with anyone to do it. And or anything, right? So this is what we would be doing by approving it tonight. And as long as it can be canceled very easily, we're trying it, right? Then we have something that we've been missing and it's causing us problems, right?
Yes, I mean, yeah, I mean, we get calls regularly for, complaints by people on their neighbors and things are untidy and dangerous. And, when Buffalo Grove left us, we didn't have a response for that. This is a good response. I don't think the board's gonna be disappointed in the service performance of Mundelein. They're pretty excited about this piece and I think they'll do a good job.
They've been working for us, right?
Well, on the plan review, 100%, on the building inspection, 100%, and they're pretty good at that. This is, code enforcement's a different animal. You got to work with people because there's all kind of reasons why the property looks bad. Sometimes there's illness, job loss, other things. You do workout schedules. So the last place you want to send them is to an adjudicator, but you do that as a potential incentive to get to work with them.
Right.
And so it's a different type of program. Mundelein has a fair amount of property maintenance investment in their own village because they've got some of their housing stock's a little bit older and and needs some attention sometimes. So.
And how much more does this cost, the adjudication part? Is this the same agreement we've had all along, or is this additional?
The cost of the adjudication?
This is an additional service from what Mundelein.
Excuse me, are we paying more money for the adjudication by Mundelein as opposed to what Mundelein has done for us previously?
Yes,
Well,
this is
sure,
an
yeah,
additional
yeah.
service from Mundelein. I don't
Yeah.
know, and Bill, maybe you do,
It looked like it was a
what the
little higher.
differential is between Buffalo
Yeah,
Grove and
depending on
Mundelein.
what the service was, there were differences. So I wasn't able to do a comparison, but I'm not sure that was my role. I just was making sure that it wasn't way off. That's all I did.
Yeah.
I eyeballed the other contract.
I would like to make a motion to approve an amendment to the building plan review inspection service agreement pertaining to property maintenance administration with the Village of Mundelein per the contract as it is. I don't know how I would end that, Vic, but
I think to
Second.
create a contract based on the proposal.
Vic, you want to add to that?
Sure, I'm trying to get the agenda back in front of me. It would just be a motion to approve an amendment to the building plan review inspection services agreement pertaining to property maintenance administration with the Village of Mundelein as revised to permit termination of such services independent of existing services.
Well, that sounds pretty clear. Nice job, Danny. Way to go.
That's what we pay in the big bucks.
All right, so moved by trustee Micho, seconded by
Second.
Me,
trustee Nora.
No, I think Bobby.
Oh, it's in
seconded
trustee
it.
O'Reilly. Okay, that's fine.
Okay, trustee Micho,
yes.
trustee O'Connor,
Aye.
trustee Nora,
Yes.
trustee O'Reilly,
aye.
trustee Kritzmeyer,
Aye.
and trustee Borowski.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, we said that we were going to let you go early. So do you have anything for us so that you can go early? Not?
I would like to just make a couple brief comments if I would, if I can.
Please.
All right, so we talked about North Kruger Road. I did want to touch on the bridge that I did get a proposal yesterday to repair the east facade from the damage from the February strikes. I guess there was two. It's $2,198. I sent that over to interim manager Balling. So looking for maybe
How much was it? How much?
approving that.
How much?
$2,198.
Okay, got it.
Jeff, when was the second strike?
About a week later, it was called into me. It was some sort of a moving truck that we had an eyewitness that called me. It was one of the operators from Steve Lester's firm. He saw the damn thing go through, so.
It made it through without damage?
I didn't say it wasn't damaged, but I didn't damage a bridge. It maybe broke an additional board, but the steel did its job.
So the $2,198 includes fixing those boards and then also touching up all the paint on the east facade from the two scrapes, if you will.
Yep.
Okay. And what's
You
that?
looking for a decision from the board on that, or just?
Yeah,
Yeah,
direction
isn't-
to approve, or if
Isn't
that's
that
the,
within, isn't that within the amount that can just be at the manager's
Yeah.
direction?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yep.
okay. Very good. The Route 53, checking with the state, they apologize for the lack of getting the speed study to us. And I got another update that it will be available in the next couple weeks. Bill Jacob signed a letter to Lake County DOT for the Arlington Heights Road project. President Bill, did that make it into the board packet? I know we discussed the board reviewing that and providing input before that went to the county.
Yeah, I didn't put the packet together. So I didn't put it in there, obviously. So,
Okay.
but wasn't it disseminated to, no, it didn't get disseminated, did it? So if Bill Balling didn't put it in there, I didn't put it in there. So
I'm sorry, I missed what was it?
there was a letter to provide feedback from the village for the Arlington Heights Road reconstruction project, which I was holding on to because there was going to be reviewed. I signed it and I was holding on to it for this meeting, but I guess, yeah, it's not in the board packet. I didn't see it in there. You're right.
Okay, so those comments are due on Thursday. Would you like me to forward that to the board?
Yeah,
Much
would you
like I
mind,
did the
Beverly?
MFT
Yeah.
resolution?
Yeah, make sure there's no additional comments that want to be added to it. I know I sent it to Rita because she has roads initially when I got it, but yeah, I didn't, that was not my action to put in the board packet. So sorry about that.
Okay, so just to recap, there was a letter drafted, President Bill signed it. I will send it to the village trustees for input and comment. The final letter is due to the county on Thursday. So if you can be on the lookout for that letter and provide your comments, that would be appreciated.
Would you set a drop dead time? And then if you haven't heard from us, send it?
Yeah, tomorrow. Tomorrow by
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm saying.
end of day
Close the
tomorrow.
business tomorrow? Close the business tomorrow then.
Close the business tomorrow, yeah. So copy me on that too, would you? So I'm aware.
Absolutely. Close of business being defined as 5:00 PM.
Right.
Did we,
Yeah.
I had suggested that we send emails from the village to the people that are south of Old 53. Actually, send it to everybody in the village, reminding them that the comments have been requested and that it would be a good time for the people down on Checker area to chime in. Have we done that?
We've certainly mentioned it twice in newsletters. You can't miss the signs. Short of writing it for them, I'm not sure what more we can do for them.
Bobby, they miss a sign about the bridge all the time, so.
Well,
Well-
we have the ability to send out mass emails to the entire village. What does it take? 2 or 3 minutes? The deadline is Thursday? You know? What can it hurt?
It can't.
Who's in charge of that? Do I need to call somebody? Do I need to remind somebody?
You
What-
want
Sherry does it.
an email
A
zip to,
constant contact.
well, we got our meeting with Melanie tomorrow morning. We'll bring it up then. Get her to ask her to
No,
get that.
no, it's a thing that Sherry does.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Sherry can send it out.
Well,
She sends-
she'll be on that call too, so we'll get it done
Yeah.
tomorrow.
I think time is of the essence though. So this, it should be first
She
thing in
could
the
do it
morning
in
if
the morning.
possible.
Yeah, well, we've got a 9 a.m. call, so we'll
9:30.
was it 9:30 tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but and you have the content too, because you just take the stuff from the newsletter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And send it out. So it won't take long to do.
The last item that I just want to provide a quick update on is the reshaping of the berm at the Grove Country Club.
Please.
We have not received the required plans for approval that would let the contractor proceed with the work. Conversations were hot and heavy yesterday and today, so I'm hopeful that translates into meaningful progress, but I will keep the board apprised.
Why are we not surprised?
I think that was a rhetorical question. So go ahead, Jeff. Anything else?
Other than that, end of report unless there's any questions.
Any questions for Jeff?
I had just a quick question and you can answer it later. I was reviewing some of the past HOA presidents meetings where we kind of like keep running tally of how much of our roads on the 15-year plan we are. Last year, I think it was like 56%, and then we completed Cuba Road. Where are we now? So just a question.
Okay, yeah, we were at 56% and that went up to 60 if I'm not mistaken. And I updated that spreadsheet and I can send that over to you.
Super, or everybody, not just me.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Thanks, Jeff.
So believe it or not, I started that spreadsheet when I had the roads.
Yay, you.
So, yep. And thanks, Jeff, it's 60. I thought it was slightly less. It might actually be slightly more now that I think about it, right? So it's right around there. So.
Okay, end of report then.
All right. Can we let Jeff go?
Sure.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good night,
All
Jeff.
right.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the meeting.
Thanks, Jeff.
You sure you don't want to stick around?
I can get filled in tomorrow morning.
Good decision.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's move right along. We have the village president trustee reports. The only thing I'll say publicly is we've got 55 applicants for the village manager position. They are now sending out questionnaires. They're following their proposal. And the next thing after that, they're going to start doing the recorded interviews. So I don't have much more of an update than that, but that's where they're at. So I believe everyone now has completed the survey that you were asked to do at the last meeting. If you haven't, there may have been 1 or 2 people that hadn't. Please get it done because they need it. So that's all I have. And then we'll just move right along to the next item on the agenda, which is the report of the EDC from this morning. Trustee Michaud, do you want to take us through that?
Sure. I think I mentioned in the last meeting that there was a shuttered venue grant that was coming up in the new package of stimulus grants. And I believe that downtown Long Grove will qualify for that. So Amy, she is now on the HLGDBA board, and I think that opens up Wednesday. So I think they're going to be submitting an application for that. We're lining up more people to do the How'd You Do It videos. The business flow chart is ready to go. We did not, I guess Mike Elliott had some issues uploading it to the Google Drive. So I think that should be up there now. So we want to do once over with all the changes and the edits, but I think that's ready to go live. I think that the biggest thing we're talking about, so the drone video is pretty much edited and ready to be put up on the YouTube channel. And I think so that the whole point of the drone video is to pull in people to come to our businesses, but the next maybe interest of doing drone or even still photos with editing would be to highlight our developable properties and take advantage of the TIFs. And Gary Vicari joined the meeting as well, and he had suggested that other municipalities partner with current businesses to kind of sponsor the cost of those drone videos. They are quite expensive to put together, and I've spent probably 16 hours trying to edit this as a, a novice, but so he had said that I think it's Lakemore has, at the end of their selling videos, thanks to, let's say, Menards and Sunset for sponsoring. So they wanted, I guess we wanted to come to the board and see if that there's appetite, maybe reach out to some of our businesses to see if they might help sponsor some of the, or share the cost on these projects. And I don't know if you want to talk about that now or if anybody has any thoughts. And then the other thing where Denise met with Municode to kind of do some updates on our website. And we're going to be doing a training. I think it's next week to get trained. So maybe we can do a lot of the changes in-house and not have to pay them because the upcharges are quite significant. I think it's $4,000 to $8,000 to add, some of the things we're looking at, like adding video. And so we're going to see if we can do some minor tweaks or in-house that will not be a big increase in cost. And then we're talking about kind of the TIF is highlighted on the website, but Mina and I work to put together like kind of a bullet point, just so it's a little bit more precise, and just pulling things from the TIF document. But one of the things we talked about is, where are we going to advertise this and what are we looking for there? And I think Rita has talked about this consistently, having a vision of what, it's helpful for us to kind of figure out what we would like to see there. And one of the things that keeps coming up, apart from restaurants and commercial, are like last mile distribution. Not like so, and one of the big conversation about that is how much sales tax is generated from those last mile distribution centers. And it sounds like that's changing constantly, but it looks like more and more that the destination sales tax will go to the communities. So that might be something to consider at the South 15, or not the South 15, but the new Gateway TIF. So
Can you stop there for a
Jen,
second though, because
I didn't follow that last bit. I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
because let me clarify that. So how in the IML publication they talked about how the sales tax now we get a per capita basis for all internet sales regardless of where they are. The thought process, if they put a last mile DC in our village somewhere, let's say it's right behind the Menards, that we might somehow get incremental sales tax revenue off of that. But I don't know, right? And so I don't know who can answer that question. I don't know if we have to go to an accountant or somebody that knows, if maybe it's somebody at the IML that knows that, but that's the question that's what Jenny was talking about.
Gotcha. That does seem like something to explore with IML. And I mean, I'm curious also about how they see that change affecting, plus your other question, Bill, about if it's not going to be per capita, it's going to be per destination. So if the demographics of Long Grove are ordering a lot of stuff off the internet, might that be good for us? But then we can also get into making sure that it's Long Grove and not Lake Zurich and all of that.
Right. That was brought up today as well about the zip code and being an issue that would need to be resolved.
It's funny. We had Rita and Ann and I had a sidebar on that one, and Mina brought it up this morning before I even got to it. So
there you go.
Yeah.
I think having a vision, I completely agree with Rita. I'm not sure that that's something that we should be doing here, without forethought, but I think definitely we want to be able to encourage something that does get sales tax, that does in fact get sales tax and traffic and kind of a critical mass of traffic for that area, so that it's the word I want, synergistic. How's that, Chris?
Yeah, and I think Irwin has been doing some exploration, and he was told, well, once you have kind of a definitive vision or something tangible, we can give you more information. But until, if we're just kind of saying, last mile distribution, that's not enough information, because I think there's a lot of, everyone's trying to figure it out right now because everyone's having a lot of, Amazon's making a ton, but this mom and pops, we're all, I'm going to kick the dead horse, but so I think there is a real appetite to make sure that if you're buying it and it's going to your community. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, but and I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. We did our book club. We talked about Holland, Michigan, and how that relates to Long Grove. So that was an interesting conversation. And then we met at the reserve and had a tour, which was, and if anybody that was not able to make it would like a tour, they say they're open anytime. So just let them know and they can meet people out there. End of report.
Do they have heat?
No, it's freezing.
Okay.
They don't even
Yeah.
have washrooms operating, but they've
No,
got water.
I think they had hoped by the end of, did they say May, to have something up that
Yeah.
that people could look at.
Because they had that other big project they're trying to meet a deadline on.
Yeah.
They have an entire theater inside that building. And a studio complete with the enormous Hollywood type ceiling lights, all closed off. I think it's the fourth time I've been in that building, and I never knew they had a theater in there before till today.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It really
It
is.
is. It's an incredible building.
Yeah.
You came off, you went into video. So did you have something to say, Rita? And Ann did the same thing. So you guys both.
What do you mean?
No, you didn't have your video on. You just put it on. So I thought you might have something to
Oh.
say.
I've said in the past, I feel like we're, and I don't mean this in any bad pejorative way, but I'm frazzled at the edges because of all of the Zoom. And I know I'm craving meeting in person, even if it's 6 feet away outside and 20 degrees.
Yeah, I forgot to turn mine on. Actually, that's the only.
Oh, got it. No, you both turned on like in the last 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, so.
Oh, there you go.
I've got food coming
Chris, thank
at
you.
some point.
You're welcome.
I've got food coming at some point, so I'll have to actually absent
Okay.
myself for a sec.
Any other comments from the EDC meeting today? Roger, I saw you join, and you know what? you logged in with Denise's login, so you almost logged me out. So we're gonna have to, Bill, that's something we're gonna have to fix up because I think we're
I'm
sharing.
sorry, I thought that was from my hosting this morning.
Yeah, I
I
know.
was
So I'm
still
like
on there.
I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, why am I getting kicked off? And then I'm like, then you showed up and I remember hearing you say, let me log in so I can record, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, did you have anything? Because you're here. I just,
If I could tie
yeah.
into something that Jenny said, and that was about the possibility that Denise would get trained in changing the website. If that occurs, I would hope that there would be other people included in that so that we can start having some cross training.
Yeah, Bobby, I'm going to be sitting in on that as well. And I don't know if anybody else in the village hall will be in on that as well, but
I
Ann,
was
are
on
you
the-
going to be there too?
Well, I said I might be invited. I was on the original discussion with Muni Code. And by the way, our service contract, they do stuff for us. That's part of the service contract. But the kind of design that we want, that's the upcharge. Denise already does most of the website stuff now. And we discussed in there, Margarita is doing stuff on the building permits. She's taken, and she and Sherry. So basically I said, look, make sure you schedule any of the refresher training. That's part of our service contract, is that they refresh every year. And so you guys schedule it so it's for Denise, Sherry, and Margarita. And if it works out for me, I'll join. But those three, Bobby. So exactly to your point.
Oh, okay. That was my point.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll just keep moving then. And I think the only other one update we have, but is the finances, right? Budget, and we did receive the treasurer's report, but it was pretty late this evening. So
I'm not prepared to talk about the treasurer's report because it came while I was driving. But last week, Bill and Denise and I had another get together over for the next fiscal year budget and talking about that. I've also been spending time with Debbie, our accountant, and with the BSNA software, and understanding kind of what the capabilities are to help us with the budget so that the budget lives and breathes in the accounting system. And I think the reports we're getting come directly from that. I think we're going to be able to do some stuff that we've wanted to do, and it's just a matter of going in, and that will be understanding, well, what's our budget by month? Being able to forecast cash flows and also expenses. We have expenses that are every month. We have expenses that are every quarter. We have expenses that are twice a year, once a year. We should be able to do that. We also have revenues that come in. And one of the things that's a result, and I've got some pictures, but I'll just describe it. A result of our refinancing the Sunset Grove TIF bonds is that what we've pledged the business district taxes, the incremental property taxes in that district, a portion of sales taxes, a portion of the infrastructure taxes. Because we've refinanced, in fact, they probably won't ever need any of the sales taxes and infrastructure taxes that are pledged. But because they're pledged, they're getting basically squirreled away in a kitty all year. And then in December, the trustee looks and says, we don't need that. And it comes back to the village. And the regular sales tax comes to the general fund and can be used for any purpose. The infrastructure then can only be used for the infrastructure capital projects. What that means is a lot of that savings is going to come in big lumps in December. And so the ability to forecast and be able to work the budget that way with that cash flow. Now we keep such big reserves, and I did see in the treasurer's report, we're still up in the high 90s, that cash flow isn't, as critical for us now that we're back up to such a high reserve level, but it's still important, I think, and good discipline for us to be budgeting that way and monitoring that way. So I guess I don't have anything necessarily to say about the January 31st right now, but I think I will, you want to weigh in, Bill, but I think that we're going to have a pretty solid budget. And I think that being able to use the accounting software is going to serve us well going forward.
And how much do you anticipate if the numbers proceed as you think they will, would be in the bucket by the end of December?
This past December, we got a check, you may have seen a deposit of $391,000, I believe. I think that's a little high. I think that next year will be lower. And the reason I say that is because the refinancing occurred last year. If you've ever refinanced a house, sometimes you roll some of that in and you actually kind of like don't pay as much. I think that might be a little high based on the forecast, but it should be in that $300,000 range. It looks like 200 to 300. Now that's the combined general sales tax and infrastructure.
Right, right. That's great. Thank you for all your efforts.
Sure. I mean, Bill and Denise are coming back with the detailed. The other thing I think we'd like to do is be able to go back to the general ledger and maybe even do some moving around so that the reporting at the general ledger department, projects and accounts is more intuitive. And that way we can show kind of higher level than we do now without a bunch of manual effort. But the detail will always be available. Any questions and a report?
I didn't get a chance to go over what came in right before the meeting.
Yeah, I didn't either, other than a
Yeah,
quick
we'll
glance.
save that for the next meeting. So thank you.
Thank you,
Um,
Ann.
Yep. Any other trustee reports? If not,
I would just say that I have my hands on a study that was done by the state of Georgia, and it has probably 25 or 30 different possibilities for protecting the bridge, with things that may cost between 500 and 5 million. And I've asked for certain people to look at it. I haven't had any responses yet, but it has a possibility of a solution towards an intuitive kind of sensor to protect the bridge. So I didn't want, I guess if the months go by and I just wanted somebody to know that I haven't forgotten.
yeah, we appreciate your efforts and working with the ad hoc committee and Chuck and everyone else. So thank you. And thanks for staying on top of it. Any other trustee reports? If not, we have on the agenda the approval of the meeting minutes from the January 26th. Let's see, which one do we have? We only have one of them, right? Amy?
Yeah.
We have the, I printed them out. Where did they go? The
You got February 9th.
February 9th, yes.
Yeah.
Wait,
So that-
you guys should have January 26th for 2 weeks now.
Okay, maybe.
I will resend it, but I do believe it was sent on Thursday last. Okay.
You got the
make sure you
26th
got it.
done then, Amy? You got the 26th done?
Yeah,
So
that
we'll
was-
put that next
I
report.
think
Okay.
I was done on Thursday with that one too.
Okay, great. Well, we'll put that on our next agenda.
The only one that made it in the
Okay.
packet was the 9th.
9th. So that we should just vote on the 9th.
I'd make a motion to approve February 9th, 2021 minutes.
All right, moved by trustee Riley, seconded by
Second,
trustee Michaud. Roll call, please.
Okay. Trustee Borowski,
Yes.
trustee Kritzmeyer,
Yes.
trustee O'Reilly,
Yes.
Trustee Nora,
Yes.
trustee O'Connor,
Yes.
and trustee Michaud.
yes.
All right, all ayes, motion carried. I think at this point, the only thing, the engineers, treasurers report, we're all done there. So public comment, anyone have any public comment? All right, if no public comment, then looking for a motion to go into executive session for personnel and executive session meeting minutes only.
So moved.
Bill, did you want a legal?
We probably don't need
Not
Vic
ready
here,
yet?
right? Yeah, Vic can
Okay.
go. Yep.
Okay, good night, everybody. Be
Good
well.
night, Vic.
Good night.
Good night, Vic.
Good night.
All right, so let's see, that was moved. Hold on a second. Who moved that first?
I did.
Trustee
Trustee
Michelle,
Micho.
and seconded by
Second,
Trustee O'Connor. Roll call.
Okay, Trustee Micho,
Yes.
Trustee O'Connor,
aye.
Trustee Nora,
Yes.
Trustee O'Reilly,
Aye.
Trustee Kritzmeyer,
Aye.
and Trustee Borowski.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Stand by. I'm going to transport you into the breakout room virtually. Beam me up, Scotty. Are we all here? Can we get a motion to,
So moved.
Second.
okay, so I'm sorry, I wasn't even watching. Who moved it?
Me.
I don't see Bobby.
Ann, actually, Ann moved it and it was seconded by
Jenny.
Jenny. Okay, roll call,
Oh.
please. Amy.
Okay.
Wait, I don't see
Oh,
Bobby.
sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. She did.
We got a
she did
It's
come
quorum.
okay.
back.
We don't need her.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
Anne moved it and it was seconded by Jenny.
Yes.
Okay. And trustee Micho,
Yes.
trustee O'Connor,
Yes.
trustee Nora,
You're muted. Chuck, you're muted.
Yes.
okay, trustee O'Reilly,
Aye.
trustee Kritzmeyer,
Aye.
and trustee Borowski.
And Bobby's
Aye.
here back. Bobby's here too.
Oh,
Got her.
She called her.
Got her. She got her.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you and I to adjourn, Bobby? Oh, you did. Okay, you got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
she did.
Okay. All right. Sorry. All right. So motion carried. Meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good,
everybody.
everyone.
Night.
Have a good night.